This week's episode of Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by Start New Company. Register your company immediately today with ASIC. ABN, TFN, GST registration is also available directly from the portal. Also set up your family trust and self-managed superannuation fund and more. All at startnewcompany.com.au. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/startnewco and keep an eye out for our regular specials. Start your new company now within 10 minutes of lodgement. All legal company documentation provided after registration. startnewcompany.com.au. And also brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au. All our servers are operating on SSD drives, immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, and more. Easy install WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and 300 other one-click installations. Generous space and bandwidth, auto backups, WordPress help and maintenance plans are also available on Contact. If your webpage is important for your business or your life, contact us today. Aussie support, secure services, athwebhosting.com.au. And now for the show.
Welcome to episode 682 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 18th of June. I forgot what day it was. It's my birthday yesterday. I should know. 2020. I'm your host, Will, and we have some random guy that turned up, and I don't know who he is, but I'm sure he can introduce himself. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Will, good. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I've fallen out of the sky, and I've regenerated, and I'm in a different universe, as you can see. And I said to Will just before the show that there's a little question for you that are on the video. You got to tell me, where am I? This is my background. I've discovered Zoom backdrops. Been having some fun with them. So you got to tell me where I am, and a big good on you at the end of the show if anyone can chat during the show and tell me where I am. But yes, it's been a while, Will. I haven't had a look today at my calendar, and it was like the 12th of December when I last was on the show.
Yeah,
but,
it's only 6 months.
Yeah,
we've only done what
20,
30 odd shows or something.
Yeah, it was about 21, I think. I think it was. But look, it was obviously the show's been left in great hands. Look at the production values. Oh yeah,
where
the new start intros, and I had to have a laugh listening to those intros. You know, when I did that Aussie Tech Ads one, I was fucking around a bit, and it just goes, is your webpage important to your business or your life? Well, if it is, it's just funny.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are they too, I don't know, camp or something?
Yes, and that's why we enjoy it. That's why they're at the start of the show. Right. So you can't possibly forget.
A bit of feeling into it.
Professional announcer.
That's right. Got a long way to go before that.
It clearly worked well.
Yeah, so I sort of pretty much know what you've been doing, Will, because I've been listening to these every week. But what else has been new?
Yeah, it's the weather's still weird here. We're still getting bloody, 4 degree nights and 28, 29 degree days.
Well, that's how it should be, as long as it's cold at night.
But then you'll get a night like last night where it wanted to rain, so it was like 6 degrees until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it suddenly became like 24 degrees. Like, it was just ridiculous. So.
Yeah, we don't have much like that. I think, I don't know, we might get down to about 14. Let me have a bit of a quick look here. What am I now?
But you've got all your flood damage repaired and...
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, I'll fill everyone in then, seeing that you asked. So, yeah, Christmas came, Christmas went, and I thought, I was gearing up for the show. And what happened after? Yeah, it was about late January, wasn't it? We had a big downpour, and it had that much rain that there's just water everywhere, and it that came from the road and was just sort of seeping through the dirt pretty much. And then underneath my house, there's like an expanse, and it's been concreted, and there's a few cracks in the concrete and whatever. So the water probably really had nowhere to go because it was that sodden that it just started like just going blip 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 out through the cracks. Like it had to get away, and so yeah, so it didn't sort of flood massively. It was just like a I don't know, a couple of sheets, a sheet of water, sort of just flooded on the floors and everything, and it was enough, especially my office, to just really you couldn't walk on the carpet without going slosh slosh slosh, and tried to vacuum it all up with a water vac and everything, but it just wasn't going to happen. So yeah, so we had to pull everything out of like my office down here where I am now. I've got a little lounge room out there. I've got a laundry there, and it just took weeks to get it all sorted. Weeks and weeks and weeks, and to the point where I think there's only got one more toilet to go in. When I say one more, there's only one to come out. There's one toilet to go and a shower, and then we'll be all finished.
Nice.
But that's just me now. I'm just slack.
Yeah, the rest is on you now.
That's right. Yeah, I've got to ring the plumber, and but look, it's been a long, hard road, and then just had to find everything, get back all the gear back sorted, and it was only today this microphone stand, because I couldn't find how the little clip that attached it to the desk.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking I'm going to have to do the show holding it. But what had happened was then when I thought, Will's going, what am I doing, you slacko? Get back on the show. And I went, all right, okay. So I made a point of it this week. And then so I said, well, I've got to find this part to attach it to my desk. So I picked up the part that I had, and then lo and behold, it was screwed to the end of it. So I could have been back 4 months ago.
Good on you. Oh dear. If you had a 3D printer, you could have printed your own.
Well, I could have. I hear something about 3D metal printers.
Yeah, you can do 3D. I mean, I've got normal 3D printer, but why is that? That's orange. That's not green. That shouldn't be. Anyway.
That's orange.
Yeah. For some reason, it's seeing it as green on the green screen. I don't know what's going on there.
It's a big vitamin C tablet.
But it's going to be for my family daycare. It's a clock, and each number's got a different shape. So it'll have the hands. I mean, the process of printing it all at the moment. But yeah, no, that's, they can do full-on metal printing now. They can even print titanium now. So,
right.
Basically one of the hardest metals on earth, and we can print it out of a printer now. And anybody can do it from home. I mean, you need a foundry, you need an electromagnet and a foundry and all this stuff to actually melt the metal in the first place. But all the components are literally available anywhere, and you can actually build it at home if you wanted to.
Yeah, right. Isn't it amazing?
There's a guy who's built one giant version of a 3D printer, basically out of a crane and a boom and a jig, and it sits there and prints houses out of concrete.
Oh, I've seen that on YouTube. Yes,
does layer after layer after layer of concrete. It's like,
oh yes, that is amazing.
They can print a house for the cost of concrete and one guy's labour for like 3 days. That's how much it costs to print a house now.
How much?
Like, it's whatever the concrete costs, and then the guy who stands there and maintains it for like 3 days.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the cost of printing a house. Like it's so cheap now.
Yeah, I know. I did see that. I saw that a little while back. I thought, what are they going to print next? Yeah. What do they think of next?
Well, the new, I don't know if you know Ken Block, but he's rally driver and runs Hoonigan and does a few other bits and pieces. But he has the new Hoonicorn, which is their new truck that they've got for this year for their burnout truck and stuff. And they needed a intake manifold to fit in a certain spot, and they couldn't machine one out of aluminium because they had too many complex parts. So they printed this intake manifold out of aluminium. They drew it up, designed it, the engineers made it, and they printed it on the spot to make it fit. Like he printed this thing in like a day, and he's got this custom one-of-a-kind metal, intake manifold. It's just like...
yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. It really is.
And like, as far as I know, you can get on the, when you get your little plastic ones like you've got, you can get on the net and you can Google up.
Yeah, you got to think
plans of anything.
These
pretty much.
These won't show up because these are green. Dang it! But these are look, my hands disappeared. But these are battery holders, AAA, AAA battery holders. They're a bit hard. You can't see them obviously because of the green screen, but they've got each one holds like 30 batteries.
Right.
I've got those. I've got my microphone holder and stand down here, which has got a big threaded bolt and arm that comes out and holds my headphone stand in place. I've got these that I'm printing at the moment. These are for my Mixmaster, so these screw to the cupboard door and the Mixmaster sits inside there, the stick mixer.
Hey, right.
I've got battery adapters, so I can convert my Ryobi batteries to my Black & Decker batteries.
Oh, there you go. And so all these plans are on some site somewhere.
They're on Thingiverse. Thingiverse.com. Yeah, there's you may need to tweak something, but like 99% of things you actually need are on there. You know, there's hundreds and thousands of things on there. You know, where are we? So like, if you go there and you can scroll through and you want anything, it's, you know, like you want to print yourself a Cybertruck, you go there and you can get all the plans to print off a Cybertruck. You know, like. It's.
What is the plastic cost? Is that expensive?
So depending on what you're printing and what's available at the moment, PLA has gone up because everybody's freaked out and they're all buying it in a hurry to print medical crap and whatever. But normally, it's fairly cheap. Like a 1 kilo roll. I've got ABS at the moment. I picked it up cheaper, but I've got a 1 kilo roll there. You know, you're looking at $10 for a kilo, and you could print. It depends. Obviously, it goes by weight, so it depends on what you're printing and how big it is and stuff like that. But you can print a lot of stuff with a kilo of filament. Like it does, you know, it does a lot. So it really, relatively speaking, it works out quite cheap. Like I think I worked it out that this clock that I'm printing at the moment, the clock with the hands and all the other bits and pieces that go with it, cost me something like.
You did say clock, didn't you?
I think so.
You could probably print those things as well.
You know, these you can. They're not Thingiverse. I think I worked it out to about 25 cents for all the componentry.
Right.
So, or like these, for example, these stick blender things that I'm printing, they cost about 10 cents to print, but you can buy them at Kmart for like $15.
You're going to put the little Chinese out of work, all those little slaves over there.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still 3D printed. So if you want something that's absolutely pristine and perfect, it's not going to happen out of a 3D printer. You're always going to get, like, if you look at it's probably a bit hard to see. If you look at the bottom of that, you can see how it's warped. You know, you never end up with a 100% flat surface, or you always end up with imperfections in the finish. That's just part of the way a 3D printer works. So depending on what you're doing, but if you're doing a lot of custom stuff or you're doing a lot of prototyping or things like that, it's perfect. Like the amount of stuff I've printed, like I've got, I'm putting a new set of drawers in my computer room that can handle, because Son wants to have more of a more storage space for art stuff. So I've got a set of drawers over here, and the normal old like lazy boy cupboard things. But the drawers are a weird size, and I couldn't get any storage things to sort of fit evenly into this drawer. So I measured the drawers, and then I went through and I actually print off. I broke it up into grids, and I figured out that I can make like a 15mm by 15mm, or any combination of that will fit perfectly in this drawer. So I'm currently going through and printing 1x, 2x1s, 4x1s, 3, you know, so all these different shapes and dimensions, and at the end of the day, they'll all drop into this drawer, and they'll fill the drawer perfectly, and you've got your own combination of storage.
Yeah, right.
You know, and to go to Bunnings and buy those tubs, or even tubs that would be similar, you know, there's $100, $150 worth of tubs there, and it's going to cost me $20 to print it.
Yeah,
you know.
Oh, it's awesome. It's like I sit here and I think, well, what am I going to print with a 3D printer? But I might just go to that web page. I'll probably find 100 things to print.
Well, I printed our toilet roll holder broke in the toilet, and I printed one off in like half an hour.
I'll tell you what I needed it for during my absence was the toilet started leaking, and it was, I had this setup where the cistern was like bolted to the pan. So what the system wasn't bolted to the wall, it was bolted to the pan, which held it upright. Yeah. And the two bolts were just plastic. Yeah. And then one of them had cracked. And then when upon further investigation, the I don't know, the top of the bolt had come off from the screwy part of the bolt. It was like this. And I couldn't find them.
Yeah.
I went around to hardware. I went to Bunnings, and one of the girls, how's this? I went in there and I said, I'm looking for something like this, and she goes, "Oh, we're not allowed to give advice." I'm thinking, yeah, okay, thank you.
In other words, you don't
And
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just give her the filthiest look and the response. I said, as if she was a piece of crap, because she was. Because like, well, you can't give advice. That's what you're there for. But anyway, I went to Bunnings. I went to somewhere else, and I went to somewhere, and then started going to plumbing shops. So I went to the plumbing wholesalers and all that, and no one had seen this setup before. And anyway, it was finally, I did find one. The guy goes, "Does your toilet look like that over there?" And I said, "Yes." And he went over, got the bolt out of it and said, "There you go, you can have that." But then, and I wish I had a printer, because I could have printed one.
One like that, or one of those, or like that.
Yeah, it was
style.
like that white one that just came up on the screen. Yes, that.
Yeah.
But with a round head.
Yep. Well, you could. Yeah, there's probably one on here already.
And so then the other toilet broke, same setup. So I called a plumber. I said, "Mate, you just come around, just bring some metal ones. I don't want plastic." He came around with a couple of metal bolts that fitted perfect, done a bit of silicon, and away we went.
So like
No
those.
more leaks. But
So you could have printed 2 of those in 10 minutes and made your life a lot easier.
probably would have. Look, it took me all day to try and find these bolts or screws, whatever you want to call them. And it probably would have been cheaper just to go and buy one of these bloody machines from Aldi and just start printing.
Well, you can get cheap. Like the one I've got is a cheap one. And it's a Delta style printer, so it's a little bit different. But it was only $149 or something. I'm in the process of actually using it to print components to make a bigger printer.
Yeah, right. I wonder, you could probably make your own computer case as well. You've got some real fancy case.
They do their keyboard. There's actually clip-ons for keyboard covers and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, right.
There's microphone mounts. So this is actually this one here is actually a printed microphone mount to hold this microphone better, because this one doesn't work.
Did you print that?
Yep. That's after it's been cleaned up with a alcohol rub and a bit of other bits and pieces. But you can get them fairly pretty.
It's pretty smooth.
It's slippery.
Oh, that's very smooth.
Yeah, it's so you can that's a lot of work to get it like that though. It doesn't come off the printer like that. But
yeah, right. When it comes off the print, it's got a lot of little knobs on it.
It depends on what you're printing. Like you can see, hang on, where are we? Got a full. You can see on this one here how, look at that center. That's supposed to be round. You can see how it's elongated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or you can see the overcast in the holes, the flashing and stuff. So you get that sort of stuff, or you'll get like this one here, like across the top. You got this rough surface where it didn't quite adhere properly on the last couple of layers. But
so how would you clean that up? Do you have to
sandpaper.
something hot?
No, it depends. If it's ABS, sandpaper works perfectly fine. If it's PLA, which is a bit of a softer material, you can quite often just get a heat gun or one of these things and just quickly run it over the top, and it takes all the flashing and stuff off them.
You got everything at your fingertips, Will.
Yeah, well, my printer's just there.
But you got all your printed stuff that you printed 5 years ago?
No, that's all over there.
Printed that. You got someone handing it all to you.
There's no. Most of the stuff I printed, I bought a lot of green really cheap, which was great because I could print with it. But the problem is I can't show you what I printed.
Now I realise now that you and Warlock have the same backdrop. So I always thought you were in the same room. Silly me.
No, we've both got the same green screen behind us.
You actually have a green screen?
I have a green wall.
Right.
My wall is actually. Let me see if I can do this on the fly here.
Because I've still got my green screen, but like if Zoom can do it this easy, it doesn't look too bad.
It's not.
I disappear sometimes.
Yeah, it does a fairly decent job, but it's not as good as a proper green screen. Plus, you can do other things with the green screen that you can't do with that.
I think the better the light, the better this will work. So I haven't got my lights back in here yet.
That does play a big part in it, yeah, for sure. But it's the green screen's more flexible because basically it gives the option of, for example, when I switch to this shot here where you're in the news, right, and I could be showing the news here, then instead of you having a backdrop, if you've got a green screen, you'd be chroma keyed out, so it would just be your outline of you, so it's not interrupting as much of the screen.
Oh, right.
So the green screen still has this, much more flexible.
Mm.
So,
Well, I've got a portable green screen. I'll see how that goes.
but
And I want to get my lights back in, but then they're a bit big. I'm wondering if you can just get those little desk round ones. I wonder if they'd be good and bright enough.
I don't even have mine turned on. I just realised.
Mm.
I've only got one light over there. I just realised I don't even actually have my studio lights on like I normally do. I wonder why I looked a bit dark.
Now, lot of progress since I've been away, Will. I should go away more often. We've got new intro titles, which is great. We've got streaming every week to multiple platforms, which is great. We've got a clock on the screen. It's got everything.
Date.
It's going off.
Yeah. And the other thing we've got that is I'm super thankful for as well, we have a Patreon.
Yes.
And we actually have a few Patreons who have signed up, and it helps us out a great deal.
How good are you guys?
Patreon.com/AussieTechHeads. Now, bear in mind, you don't feel obliged to go there at all. Don't feel obliged by any means that you owe us anything at all. We do it for the love, but we're certainly not going to complain. We've got Chris, we've got David Bird, we've got Daniel and Amanda, and we've got Bouncing Yellow Skull. They're all current Patreons.
Good on you guys.
All that money that we get from this will go back into the show for production in various cases, whether it's to the radio station, whether it's for the multi-stream hosting, whether it's for random hosting we need, or podcast hosting, or new equipment or software. So it'll all go back into that. We're not monetized. We don't have sponsors. We don't have monetization on YouTube. So it does help us out a great deal. But as I said, don't be obliged. Don't feel obliged to go there. We're not going to stop doing the show if you don't. But it's certainly going to help us if you do.
Mm. Yes. So we sort of do have sponsors, but they're not doing anything.
Are they classed as sponsors if they don't pay us?
They're classed as
the gap fillers.
Probably maybe paying my debts.
Not increasing the debt.
Something like that. But yeah, thank you to those guys that have set up a Patreon thing. I'm not quite across that yet, but I know Will's been setting that up and he's done a good job as well.
A few more tweaks there, but yes, we've got Patreon. We're obviously, you can find it on patreon.com/AussieTechHeads. You can get us on facebook.com/AussieTechHeads. We're on twitter.com/AussieTechHeads. We also, you can get us on the Twitch stream, the Twitch TV Aussie Tech Heads, which is probably the best quality video. YouTube.com/AussieTechHeads is where you'll find the show after we've recorded it, and also the live stream there. Our website, of course, is aussietechheads.com.au, and the new thing we have also is instagram.com/AussieTechHeads on IG, because somebody already had Aussie Tech Heads and somebody already had ATH. So,
well, I've probably got Aussie Tech Heads.
Not you. Some random Filipino guy. So we haven't started on the Instagram yet. We are getting there. I just need to catch up a bit on that. We also have a TikTok, but I refuse to use it. I just took it so nobody else would.
What are you putting on Instagram?
Nothing yet. That's what I said. I haven't got it started yet, but
let me have a look here.
But
I'm sure I have got it. Yeah, I've got it.
Well, not according to Instagram, you don't. We'll worry about that later. But anyway,
it is. It comes up Aussie Tech Heads, one word.
It wasn't working before. But anyway, we shall sort that out later. I can always fix it. That's not a problem. We can have two.
And we're gonna have like after dark photos or during the day photos.
That's it.
But yes, so yeah, that's all good, Will. And look, one day we might update the podcast logo.
it's a work in progress.
The cover art. That's right. I think it's me. You is Eric still on there?
I think so. Yeah.
Or is it
me?
Warlock?
It's me, you, and Eric. I'm pretty sure.
I have to get that sorted.
That's only been like 5 years ago.
Well, that's what happens. That's why I say it takes me 5 years to do all these sort of things, and then as soon as I do it, people leave, so I don't do it anymore.
Hey, hey Mario, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining. All right, so I suppose we've been ranting. You're as bad as Warlock. It's been half an hour. You realise that?
I've got to get it back into my groove.
Oh, your groove's perfectly fine. I can see it from here.
I've got plenty of them.
So, all right. Well, do you want to start us off with a news story?
All right. So Zoom. Now, hopefully you haven't really crossed too many of these. These are current stories, so hopefully you haven't. But Zoom, which we are using right now, is set to offer end-to-end encryption for all users. Now, one of the things while I was away, there was a big story, with all the Chinese flu and all that going around. That the problem with people were Zoom bombing and all this sort of stuff. So you're in a call like me and or Will and I are right now, and then all of a sudden someone else is in there, some random, and just I don't know what they could do anything they want. They're like it might be like chat roulette. Remember that? Is that still around?
Yep.
Chat roulette.
Yep, it's still a thing.
So yes. Anyway, so Zoom bombing, and it was just as simple as someone worked out each of the Zoom meetings. They're numbered. So Zoom.us/1234. Well, then someone figured out that they were numerically increasing. So you just go Zoom.us, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something, and then you'd be just bang straight into someone's Zoom call. So and obviously they weren't encrypted either. So Zoom Video Communications is planning to offer all its free and paying users end-to-end encryption for video calls and will launch a trial version in July. The company, whose business has boomed with the coronavirus lockdowns, forcing more people to work from home, has transformed into a global video hangout. And hasn't it taken off? Like you can see like a lot of TV shows and that they've ditched Skype, because Skype's been pretty, how's your father? But now Zoom is sort of coming in, and I've seen other places like Google. They've got they're sort of resurrecting their Hangouts. I'm not sure if they still call it Hangouts. So they've got Google Meeting or something like that. You've got the Microsoft Teams, which is pretty much, I suppose we could do Teams, couldn't we, if we both had a Microsoft account? And there's plenty of others, and they're all sort of booming. And a lot of all this work from home, video conferencing from home, it's all boomed after the all this Chinese Corona stuff. And after a series of security failures resulted in some institutions banning the use of Zoom, so the company hired former chief security officer of Facebook, Alex Stamos, and he was hired in April, and he's going to roll out all these major upgrades. So you can go and you can be very confident in the future that Zoom to Zoom, end to end, is all encrypted. That's good, isn't it?
So basically they've been encrypting the paid version forever, but the free one they hadn't been. And up until 2 weeks ago, they were determined that they weren't going to do the free one because it was free, and obviously running encryption costs money. But they've finally given in and said, okay, look, fine, you can have it on the free one as well. So
look, they had to. They got a lot of bad press, didn't they, with the Zoom bombing and that?
Not really. They got a lot of misguided press, unfortunately, because it happened in a lot of high-profile situations. It happened in some US government meetings. It happened in some newscasts. It happened, but the thing is, you got to remember, 6 months ago, nobody had heard of Zoom. Other than a handful of people, nobody was using it. I mean, we've not that long had a hosting account with them, and it wasn't really a big deal because there's only people using it for what we're using it for, as a specialised purpose. It wasn't general purpose. Then all of a sudden, everything blows up. Skype just fails to do anything at all. Meet doesn't exist yet, and the Microsoft one was still in development.
I don't think you can do group chats on Skype, can you? Yes, you can.
You can, but it's not pretty. And so Zoom became, because it was free and had one-on-one for 45 minutes, that was or one-on-one for free and multiple for 40 minutes or whatever it was. That was enough for most people. So it became very popular very quickly. It outpaced their development. They hadn't prepared for that, but they've got on top of it really quickly. The few problems there's been no major security breaches in terms of there hasn't been information being stolen or anything like that. It's literally just being bombing, like photo bombs, same sort of thing. At the end of the day, it's not a huge deal, and really 90% of that could have been stopped had they when you go into your settings, you turn your lobby on and you don't allow people that aren't in your list, and they can't get in anyway. So most of the reason that was occurring is because people had it set up wrong. But anyway, so they've been saying for a while they've had end-to-end encryption on the paid one. They haven't been doing it on the free because it costs them money. But yeah, recently, as of last started this week, they went, okay, fine, we'll put on the free one now. We've focused enough on the paid one where it's stable enough. We can spend a bit of time on the free one. So then they've done that. They're doing a few other tweaks to the free one as well. But look, I give them full credit. I think they're doing a great job. And despite their problems, I think they're still far more reliable and set up better than any of the other ones.
And I like their backgrounds, like their green screenless backgrounds, like the one I've got now. Like you've got, I think it's just good. I don't know how they really do it because
it's all done with motion tracking. It's pretty simple, but I mean, Hangouts did it a couple of years ago, but it's one, it's processor hungry because it requires the processor to be doing extra work and the more you move, the worse it is because it's got to do a lot more processing. But it's fine, and it's mainly for the fun, and you can have fun with it and put videos in there, and you can do all sorts of stuff, I
use it for a proper purpose. I'm not saying that this isn't a proper purpose to hear this on the show, but I'm part of a business network group, and we have about 25 or so people hook up every fortnight.
That's right.
And I did one this morning, and it works seamlessly. Everyone's really muted until the person unmutes you, and you're into the waiting room before you're into the whole
And the
thing.
other neat part about it is it does launch an app if you choose to, but you don't have to launch the app. You can do it directly out of the browser. It works natively on phones, once again, with or without the app. If you don't have the app, it works straight in the browser. If you have the app, it works through that. It's a very versatile program, a very low overhead, low bandwidth. If you've got to have a certain amount of bandwidth to broadcast in HD, otherwise it drops you to SD. But even the quality of the SD is really good. So
that's what you want, quality.
Speaking of sort of hangout sort of things, just a quick one. Google Meet, which we're talking about, ironically hasn't been working on Android. It's only been working on desktops. Earlier this week, they launched the Google Meet app on Android. So now that does work. I have sort of played with it a little bit. It's very much the old Hangout. It's still plagued by the same problems the Hangout was. You still get flaky audio. It's like undersampling the audio. And you get one thing that Zoom doesn't suffer from, or doesn't seem to, when you get a spike or a dip, it plays catch up and it catches up the audio and the video simultaneously. So it always seems to stay in sync. It's really clever like that. Meet doesn't. As soon as you drop a packet or drop a frame, it'll throw one of the two out of sync, and it won't catch back up. It just gets further and further out of sync.
So with Zoom, every stream, say you're on a stream of say 25, so everyone's going back to Zoom HQ and then back to that 25. Is that how it's working?
They do a bit. Well, on the bigger the group, they still do the peer-to-peer to some degree, but because they still have the server involved, that's how it syncs, because it works out everybody's ping time to the server, and then it works out the keyframes that it logs, and it logs the keyframes, and it knows exactly who's got what delay. So you could have, I could have a, let's say, 20 millisecond delay to the server. You could have a 40 millisecond ping to the server, but it will hold my broadcast for 10 milliseconds to give it a better average across the time. So you don't get a noticeable delay between when one person's when their sync catches up. So
yeah, that's good. Isn't
it? It's quite
There's
clever.
some smart boffins around.
That's why they get paid the big money.
That's right. Did you have anything else with what you were saying?
No, I was just saying, just Meets, finally catching up on an Android device from a Google platform.
I went to, I think when I left, you knew I bought an iPhone.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason we disowned you.
Yes. And I probably won't be back after I tell you my next thing. I bought an Apple Watch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help you with all your problems.
So this will be my last show.
That's it. You're off the show. That's no return for you.
That's not going too bad. It's going all right. And I got to close my ring every day. As long as I do that, it works.
Yeah,
those with an Apple Watch will know what I'm talking about.
But it's like, I mean, it's I got Sona a new phone for her birthday, which is end of the month.
Android.
It's funny, we both got the Note 5, and mine's fine, but her battery's failing, and nobody wants to touch the battery because it's potentially breaks the screen when you change the battery. It was one of
Mm.
Samsung's bad designs. They didn't do this anymore. But
You could print a new case. I know where the screen breaks.
yeah. So
Plastic screen.
so she's got the new. We're tossing up what we're going to get and what phone. She's ended up getting the new. I don't know what she ended up getting actually. Honestly, the new Note.
Something
9
that
or
cost you money,
but
Will.
Yeah, whatever it was. So, but we decided that when mine dies, I'm going to get the Xiaomi, the Note 10 Me.
Oh,
So,
I had a Xiaomi.
I love them.
Probably the low end one. Probably that's why it sort of didn't work after a few updates. But I've still got it. It still works. But yeah, look, that's all. It's old news anyway. I'm on the iPhone now. So I've got to look at another little story here. One that quite befuddled me, to be honest, to start with, and probably still to a certain degree. Microsoft won't sell facial recognition tech to the police.
Yeah.
So I know, we've all heard of the insanity about getting rid of police, but Microsoft is the latest tech giant to say it will not sell its facial recognition technology to police departments. So I'm guessing this is just in the US. I don't think it would be worldwide. But the first thing why it befuddled me was the first thing that came to my mind was, geez, they're spending a lot of probably R&D on facial recognition, and they're just saying no to one huge customer. So why say no to a huge customer unless you'd have to be pretty damn sure no one else is going to come in and gazump you, why can't a little facial recognition firm, the police need it so desperately, why they go to someone else and get it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why these people are saying we're not going to give them to the police.
It basically comes back to damage control. Because the general public doesn't want facial recognition, and if it turns out that a major corporation who people use sells them software to them that they don't want, then people will stop using the software. So if Microsoft turns around and sells facial recognition to a corporation who uses it for nefarious purposes, people already don't want this software.
But who are they going to sell it to?
The police, CIA, FBI. Once you sell it to one, you sell it to the whole lot. They've all got access to it.
But, so if you say, okay, I'm not going to sell it to the police because it can be misused, so who the hell are they going to sell it to?
They won't. They'll keep it and use it internally, use it for unlocking phones and use it for internal applications. The whole touchless system, which is what they're moving towards. But the same with, that's why they won't do it. There's too much backlash room there. If a small company develops facial recognition software and puts it out there and then sells it to the police, there's no recourse for this company because nobody's bought their products prior anyway.
I guess so, but
that's what it comes down to.
Oh, they
don't need the money. They don't need the money. Apple, Google, and Microsoft and Tesla now are the four richest companies on the face of the earth. They don't need money. Money is not the priority. They want to be seen to be doing the right thing whilst doing as much nefarious as possible behind the scenes.
So it was first reported by the Washington Post that Microsoft President Brad Smith on Thursday said that the company has put a ban on facial recognition sales to police until federal regulations of the technology are passed. We do not sell, and this would be old Braddy boy, we do not sell our facial recognition technology to US police departments today, and until there is a strong national law grounded in human rights, we will not sell this technology to police departments. Here we go. Microsoft said in the statement, I don't know, is it up to them?
Yep.
I guess
their
technology, I suppose it is. We're committed to working with others to advocate for the legislation that's needed. We're also, blah, 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 blah. The move follows pledges this week by AWS and IBM, which have come amid widespread protests of police mistreatment, blah, blah, blah. If I was a little, so I don't know. Why can't old Don just buy up a little facial recognition company and proprietarize it all out himself? Yeah, there you go. Got my own.
Well,
see you later.
They already have facial recognition software. It's common. All video surveillance already has it. It's nothing new.
Yeah, I thought they had facial recognition software 20 years ago when you walk in the supermarkets.
Yeah, they do. It's just the Microsoft and the Google one are some of the better ones, but they're not the only ones. There's heaps others. And it's just one of those things. you know,
It's a bit crazy
they're
that
using under the
because you
guise.
supply something to somebody, and then if somebody else doesn't like that somebody, you're maligned with the hatred. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, that's how the world works.
Yeah, it's gone mental.
It doesn't make sense, but that's how the world works because, you know,
I think Corona was a mental disease.
yeah, well, I think it was an addition to a mental disease. But, you know, it's no different than, you know, people tearing down statues and going, that's history. We don't need to know about history because, you know, we don't like it. So, well, no, that's not how history works. History is there to learn from so you don't do it again. I don't care if you like it or not. That's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with what's happening now. But it's the same.
Yeah, or you
it's the
can
same,
improve on, like I saw. Oh, I don't want to go into all this sort of stuff, but I saw there was a shire in Sydney. Their logo was Captain Cook,
Yeah.
and so instead of just scrapping it and putting a picture up of a kangaroo or something, they had Captain Cook and they put an Aboriginal lady next to him,
Yeah.
and they want that to be the logo. Well, that's probably improving.
It's like that beer, the colonial
Like-
beer from South Australia. And this backfired. 9MSN thought they were going to have the biggest coup. They put up the thing saying, colonial beer, using this name, nobody agrees. Do you think they should change it? And 95% of the 150,000 votes said, no, don't change it. And they pulled the survey off their website. Because it
They'll
didn't.
still change it.
Hey?
They'll still change it.
No, they're thinking they probably won't. They had an interview the other day. And they're like,
They
no,
got the Corona.
you know, but it's like, not only did their narrative go pear-shaped, it completely backfired on them, so they pulled the survey off the net so that so that
They
people
love
couldn't
those
see it.
net surveys.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be skewed or anything, would they?
No, they'd be 100% reliable, guaranteed.
You wouldn't just get everyone on there,
They
no matter
made-
what the subject.
They're made by the same people who control the polling booths. They'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Nothing to
But
see
no
here.
matter-
Move along.
Yeah, no matter what the subject, you'd all get your pet hate people and your pet love people, and depends who's got more time in the day.
Well, that's the
So-
problem with minorities. Minorities have always seemed to have plenty of time to cause trouble. The people who don't agree with them are off actually trying to make a living.
Yes. Well, we could go deeper, but for fear of being ostracized
Get the
ourselves,
show
we
taken
should
off.
stop.
We'll get taken off YouTube and Facebook and stuff. You watch
That's right.
this episode.
Aussie
Will
Tech
be,
Head's big band.
yeah.
Did you have another story there?
Yeah. So good old Linus Torvalds.
Oh yeah.
We talked a couple of weeks ago about how he likes Microsoft and how he's actually using what his new computer is. It's got all the specs there, so you can actually go and buy your own Linus Linux computer off the website. But anyway, they've been talking about the new code that they're working on and the new developments applications, how much effort they've been putting into it. The new release, the Linux kernel 5.8, which is a new one that's coming out, it contains 800,000 lines of new code and over 14,000 changes. And it's basically a 20% overhaul of the code.
Wow.
It's basically they're touting it as their biggest release of all time. Saying
Is this desktop and server editions, or
this is Linux. So Linux is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of that.
right?
But basically, yeah, they're saying that they've even reduced the size. Linux 5.8 is about the same size as what 4.9 was from back in 2016. Given that it's got 22 million lines of code, they've managed to cull it and reduce it down. They've
obviously got
streamlined
like
it.
really smart cookies that we can't say work for them, because they don't get paid, do they?
Yeah,
Isn't it all?
the Linux actual development team is a legit like business.
Right. Okay. Right.
They get enough of because a lot of the corporations that use it pay for support and stuff like that, so they make enough money via that to actually have a fully fledged business.
So I was thinking, why can't they just take that next step into mainstream? Why can't they just get something slick, like an interface that's slick?
The problem is with a lot of stuff you want to interface with. So if you want to interface with, up until recently, a lot of graphics drivers or sound drivers, things like that, you've had to pay for the rights to use that hardware. So you haven't had the option to do that. Or, for example, MP3 encoding, you can't bundle that it's against the terms of service to bundle that, and it's a paid add-on because the people who own the rights to it want to charge for it. So there's all this sort of stuff stopping it from being a free thing. But I mean, you can pay like Red Hat or Ubuntu, or there's a lot of these other ones that you can actually pay for to have corporate support to make them usable in a rollout environment. And these days now, especially with the whole work from home movement that's happening, it's entirely possible to run them directly on a Linux system. So much of the stuff you're doing is web-based now. There's absolutely no reason to have Windows for the 95% of the stuff that everybody does.
Well, that's right.
And now that they've integrated with the new Windows 10 integration of Linux can be booted up natively under Windows now. So,
okay.
You know.
Well, I saw like Microsoft's taken another step, haven't they? Like with their Edge browser, they've obviously given up. Used to be IE, they used to have 96% market share or something, high 90s. And now Edge, they've just gone, no, we can't do it anymore. And now it's just Chrome.
But Edge is based on Chromium anyway.
That's right. Yeah, it's just a basic. It's Chrome. You right click and you get all your right click Chrome options and stuff.
Right. It's funny. But I mean, I could almost use. Is there any reason? I'm trying to think. I could actually probably switch over to Linux and not notice any difference in terms of my day-to-day use now. There's one program I've got that I couldn't use in Linux, and it won't run. Well, it will run under emulation, but runs slow under emulation. But other than that one program, which I don't actually even need to use, then yeah, I could absolutely switch over to Linux tomorrow and not miss Windows at all. You know.
Well, look, what do you use Windows for exactly? Like, I got a little server here. It's running Open Media Vault, so that's not Windows.
Yeah.
What do you use? I've got a little Kodi that runs Linux. I've got a Mac, runs Mac OS. You don't need Windows.
Yep, no, that's right. I mean, literally the only program that I'm using that's running Windows that would affect anything is the ticker running across the top of the video. That's a Windows executable file. That is literally the only program that I would struggle to run on Linux. I don't think anybody's written a Linux code for it, but it wouldn't be too hard to write a code for it. So and most people are the same. Like, unless you're hardcore gaming, a lot of games still suffer on Linux just because of what I was saying before with driver bases the way they are. Most games work fairly well, but some of them still suffer a bit under Linux.
But wouldn't you I remember when Microsoft was moving to Windows 7, was it? That they sort of wrote a lot of drivers themselves just so that Windows 7 could be compatible with a lot of hardware.
Sort of, and then they screwed everything up by having a 64-bit, which nothing worked with.
I remember the XP 64-bit, nothing used to work with it.
Same thing, because nothing was certified. We're going to have this as a secure operating system, and you've just got to get your drivers certified. And everyone goes, no, we're good, thanks.
But even now, when you install Windows 10, there's a lot of devices that will just go away and get the Microsoft version of the driver. And if you want things to work that little bit better, you go away and get the actual, the hardware vendor's version of the driver.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the generic drivers and a lot of people don't know the difference.
Well, they do work. That's right. Yeah, they still work.
But you do get a better experience by using the manufacturer's drivers, just mainly because they're updated more often. But it depends on what it is too. Like graphics drivers, yes. Sound card drivers, yes. Network drivers, yes. Everything else, I mean, how much is a USB driver going to change?
How much money is Windows or Microsoft losing out on now? Because it doesn't seem that, like, now Windows 10 is here, and it's sort of come true that this was going to be the last Windows, and it just keeps Windows 10 build 2, 3, 4, 5, and just so on. We get updates twice a year, Windows 10 updates. There's no sign of buying another operating system. I suppose you still buy it with a new computer, don't you?
Technically, under the terms of service, the copy of Windows that you install onto that PC is locked to that PC. So technically, you cannot upgrade that PC without buying a new version of Windows.
Well, that's a loose word, though. Upgrade, like what? Upgrade,
update, or replace.
But what?
Hardware.
What, a RAM stick?
They don't say. It used to work off the CPU ID, back
they
before
banned
back before you could block that. So, but I remember going to the Microsoft XP conference when Microsoft XP first came out. I went to the conference in Melbourne, and they were spruiking, "Oh, this is locked to the hardware," and I went, "Well, which bit of hardware?" They're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, back on my workbench, I've literally changed every component of hardware, and the system still boots. So, which bit of hardware are you locking it to?"
I think it was a bit of a stretch for XP, but yeah, I've seen machines where it says you can't activate things, and
but I mean,
yeah,
technically,
happens.
under their terms of service, anything you do to touch the hardware, like that, even theoretically applies to technically, if I guess you're changing, USB sticks if they're hardware, it would technically apply to that. But basically, they say you can't change the hardware without buying a new copy of Windows. Is effectively what they say. Not that anyone ever does that, but that's if you want to get technical about it. But the stupid part is,
Windows 10, you don't really need a serial number anyway.
No, and that's the thing. You can, this system is entirely different to my last system, and that's, so I don't know.
Because I think Windows, doesn't take a list of, I don't know, the Mac IDs or something, whatever they are, of your system, and then if too much has changed at once, well, then it just won't activate.
I know, it's still pretty much motherboard. Like, you can change motherboard, same type and brand, but if you change out the motherboard, that's pretty much it. But I mean, that's realistically not specifically a Windows fault. That's more of a mass driver change, really.
But if you bought, if you're not buying an OEM, if you're actually buying a retail version, you should be able to push that around wherever you want.
I think honestly they don't care as long as you only have one activated copy of that. Realistically, I don't think they actually care. And good luck enforcing it. I mean, even with Windows XP, the amount of times I used to just ring up Microsoft and go, "Hey, my key doesn't work," and they just give me a new key over the phone. Like, they didn't even ask for if it's yours or
right. Yeah, I guess because they
don't make their money out of retail. They make their money out of corporate. You get a company goes, "Hey, I've got 50,000 systems I need a corporate license for." That's where they make their money.
Yeah, and that's right. So it's all in the business, isn't it? But anyway, I'm happy. We'll just get new updates and new features. I don't know what they are, but apparently there's new features every 6 months.
Yeah, I generally turn most of those updates off just because of what happened tonight. Is a classic example of why I turn my updates off, because that was at Windows decided to upgrade my network card drivers and corrupted them.
Yeah, right. Motherboard drivers or external?
Internal. So it screwed up my Wi-Fi and my hardwire.
Were they Microsoft drivers or were they original?
No, they're original ones, but it went through the Microsoft updating. As part of the Microsoft update, went through their process. So,
well, you people might think that us Windows mob are the only ones with problems, but no, because you will be having problems if you're on a Mac. Well, maybe not, but Apple may soon announce. Remember back in 2006, I think it was, with Apple changed from PowerPC to the Intel chips.
Yeah,
and then everything post that change wouldn't work on the PowerPC, and everyone thought, oh, Apple's done it this time. They're just that money grabbing. They've changed everything. Nothing's compatible. They're going to die a sweet death. But no, they charged higher and higher. They soared higher and higher. But anyway, what's happening now is their new initiative is to bring their processors in-house to their Mac lineup in preparation for a launch of ARM-based Macs in 2021. So this announcement is likely, but not certain, at the Worldwide Developers Conference, which starts next week, June 22nd. Intel has declined to comment, and Apple did not immediately respond to a request for comment. From Intel declining to comment, I'd say that that's probably true, because if they're not going to let this bad or a major. Well, apparently it's not that major. It's 5% of it. I read 5% of Intel's revenue is Apple, comes from Apple, but it's still a major customer for Intel. I don't think they're going to have falsehoods going around in the marketplace, because it wouldn't be good for their shares. So Intel declined to comment, which makes me think it's probably true. and Apple did not immediately respond. Apple started using Intel processors for the Mac in 06. Apple is believed to be interested in developing its own processors to reduce its dependencies on suppliers, along with device timetables not always lining up with those of suppliers. Yeah, well, I guess, look, if you only got 5% of your revenue comes from one bloke, you're not going to rearrange your whole situation, are you, if you're Intel? Yes, so Apple manufacturers such as Apple are continuing to grapple with the CPU shortages from Intel that have constrained device production. I'm not sure why they've got bloody shortages, but anyway, they must have. Not enough silicon going around.
No, China shut down.
Maybe everyone's protesting.
China shut down for
not
3
making
months.
chips. Patrick Moorhead, the president and principal analyst at More Insights and Strategy, called the chip initiative a risky and expensive move. He goes on to say, I'm scratching my head on why Apple would do this. There's no clear benefit for developers or for users, and it appears Apple is trying to boost profits. Oh, heaven forbid. Oh, he's be in lots of trouble, old Mr. Moore, or Moorhead. All things equal, Apple's new CPU would need to outperform Intel's, blah, 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 blah. But look, that'll work for them. You know, I think what they're trying to get to is, I think if you buy an app in the App Store, it's going to work on your phone, it's going to work on your PC or on your Mac, it's going to work on your iPad, it's going to work on your watch, whatever. So, yeah, look out.
Well, I say it's going to reduce processor costs by 40 to 60%.
Yeah, that's massive.
You know, that's a big chunk.
So who makes ARM? ARM.
Yeah, I mean, American.
ARM. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, well, 40%. Like, why wouldn't you? I guess that's that's going to be a big saving for them. It's not going to be a saving for the customer, I bet. But I went to the Apple Store through Corona. I went for a Corona visit, and once they reopened, and at the line up, get me temperature taken, and put a mask on, and spoke to the guy with a mask on for the whole time, and couldn't see anything. Every time I put my glasses on, I couldn't see things. They fogged up all the time. I said, I can't handle this, mate. I bought the watch anyway. But yeah, sorry, Will, I'm just going off on a tangent.
I was going to say, it's part of, like the iPhone, most smartphones in general, as you said, like the watches, a lot of mobile devices using it already. These days, the vast majority of Apple is MacBook based. They don't do anywhere near the amount of desktops as they do. So it makes sense that you might as well use it for cross compatibility as well. Plus, the other thing that was happening too was people were able to, even though Apple only called them the A10 and A11 and A12 chips and whatever they were giving them, because they were Intel-based chips, people were easily enough able to backwards engineer them and figure out what they actually were. If you're going for an ARM chip, then it's going to be a lot difficult because there's a lot less information in there on that side of it. So, I don't know. I mean, it'll be good for cross-compatibility, and what it basically means, they can make like a A14 processor, and that same processor could go in the phone, in the tablet, in the desktop, in the laptop, and then if you wanted to boost the performance, for example, on a desktop, you could run two of them, or you could run an extra chip that does extra things. But yeah, I mean I see what they're doing, and I mean you got to think back in the day, like when you only had, you really only had Cyrix. Pre AMD, you had Cyrix and you had Intel. Realistically, were the only ones making, processors. And then later on, you had AMD come in, and then you had ARM come in, then you had the RISC processors, and then you had the So there's not.
It's going to be another like big jolt, isn't it? Like, the Macs coming out next year won't be compatible with previous ones.
Well, that's going to be the biggest problem, is that you think of a business that's just forked out and bought 50 Macs for their workstations, for their publishing suite or whatever. They're probably not going to be super happy about it.
But I guess, like as we were saying before, does the operating system really matter these days? Say Mac's got, what have they got, Keynote or something, whatever one of those Office programs are. Like, yeah, sure. That obviously Mac's going to make Keynote for, say, the ARM processor, but the actual data file that's produced will be compatible between both, surely.
Yeah, it's only the actual program. The program itself would have to change, but yeah, the
Yeah.
information based on that would be the same.
So I can't see. Look, these days there's probably not that much upheaval because, as we were saying, that everything's on the internet. Like
Yeah.
first thing you do on your computer, you don't open up a program, or you open up a browser, and away you go. That's where you live.
That's right.
You're just living on the internet.
You know, even stuff like we use point of sales, like whether it's Vend or whether it's Xero or whether it's whatever, but all that data is cloud based. You're only interfacing with it through a browser. You know, you don't keep the data on locally, which may or may not be a benefit to some people, but it's the same thing. Like even the Zoom app, which is what my system's seeing you currently through the Zoom app. But at the end of the day, it's just nothing more than a dedicated browser window, effectively. You know.
Yeah, for the popular ones like the Zooms and the Microsoft Office, like they'll end up making versions for the ARM processor. Like back in the old days, you know, you'd have stacks and stacks of programs that you've bought and whatever. Like that just doesn't really exist. Like I'm looking at my machine here now. There's not many programs I've bought. Like I've bought Office. And I'm just looking at my little taskbar. I've got all the browsers.
See, I don't use Office. I use either OpenOffice or LibreOffice. I don't use Microsoft Office.
Well, I've got QuickBooks,
Google
but then
Docs.
see that's browser based as well.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. Spotify, but they'll make ARM one, or that's browser based. iTunes, it's just not that much stuff that you actually buy, and you know, So I don't think it's going to make a big difference actually.
No, it's not. And if there are a couple of really super successful programs, well, see things like Photoshop, and that could be a problem. You know, because they're they're not only a program, but they're hardware sensitive as well.
But then doesn't Adobe have all their stuff in the cloud? Don't they process now in the cloud?
Yeah, but the actual that's the program, but the actual processing power is still done by the hardware on the PC. So if they're looking for an Intel chip or an AMD chip, they're not looking for an ARM chip. You know what I mean? Like they would have to develop that program to specifically look for that piece of hardware to do the work.
Well, I'm sure they will because, Photoshop, didn't Adobe pretty much, cut its teeth coming up through the Mac ranks, didn't it?
Originally, and then it turned to garbage and everyone went to GIMP. But, I mean, you had Photoshop was predominantly Mac-based, and then you had CorelDRAW, which was predominantly PC-based.
Oh, God, jeez.
But then,
Corel.
it was a dog of a... They're still around. But they kind of cross-moginated, and people have gone away from Photoshop now. And, GIMP is what... I got a friend of mine who's actually a professional digital artist, and he says in the professional realm, GIMP now outweighs Photoshop about 10 to 1.
Yeah, right. Because the last time I opened GIMP up, it's sort of the user interface was just still a bit clunky, like Windows 3.
Well, it's not. It's just as you used to Photoshop's one.
Why can't they just make it nice?
It is. It's perfectly fine, especially once you use it. I love it. But when you first go to use it, it's the same as using, Streamlabs instead of, what's the Photoshop Lightroom or whatever their video editing one is.
Yeah, right.
Use Streamlabs or one of those ones, which are by far a superior program and they're free. But because all the tutorials and everything you generally learn in a professional environment is based on one particular application, it takes a while to switch over.
Because I was looking for something that would open an AI file, and I thought of GIMP, and I did load it up, and it did open it, but I just thought, look, the user interface is a bit stuffed. So I just went to Fiverr. I said, hey, can you change this word for $5? And they go, yeah.
But that's the thing too, like with GIMP, as with many of them being a free program, they base their productivity on functionality rather than looks. And that's exactly the same with Linux. It's based on functionality rather than looks. The program functions, it functions faster, functions better, and it's more reliable. It doesn't look great, but most people can get around that because of the other features. Inkscape's another one. It's a publisher crossover, but it's the same thing. Compared to publisher, it's not as pretty, but it's far more powerful than publisher would ever be.
Well, I might have to give GIMP a bit of a more of a go pretty soon because look, I still say now languishing with Photoshop CS3, and
Well, I've got
I'm thinking,
CS4. Not that I ever use it, but I've got it.
well, I use it all the time,
No.
just for just basic stuff. I'm not a Photoshop head, but I'll use it just to I don't know, put picture in picture or just cut it out or something, just basic stuff.
So I use GIMP for all that, and like all my lower thirds and all that, they're all created in GIMP.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I could do it in Publisher anymore, to be honest, in Photoshop anymore.
Are we waffling on, Will, or are we
Just for something different, yeah. Services Australia buys 35,000 laptops and monitors in 2 months.
Ooh, that's a big order.
Yeah, Services Australia has now purchased almost 20,000 laptops and more than 15,000 monitors since the coronavirus pandemic forced staff to make the jump from office to home. Canberra's largest service delivery agents last week signed off on the latest of a string of contracts for new hardware devices at a combined cost of $19.2 million.
What brand?
A spokesperson told IT News the largest of the three deals will see Canberra-based Ford IT supply 6,300 Microsoft Surface Pro notebooks under a $13.5 million contract. Another 1,000 Satellite Pro notebooks will be provided to Sydney-based Ethan Group over a similar 3-year at $1.8 million. Dell Australia will provide a further 11,000 Microsoft notebook PCs and 22,000 computer monitors under a $3.8 million contract. All three contracts run between May 2020 and May 2023. The hardware and upgrades have been procured to meet large range of requirements, including mobility, asset replacement, growth, and business continuity, they said.
Yeah, well, look, I remember just going back to the start of the Chinese flu in, I don't know when it was. When did it all start? March or early March or something?
February.
Then you couldn't buy monitors.
Mm.
You know, and then you couldn't buy anything. Like other things I couldn't buy was I wanted another chair,
Yeah.
an office chair. I couldn't buy an office chair.
No.
Couldn't buy a monitor. I couldn't buy IKEA. I wasn't allowed to buy anything from IKEA. It all ran out.
I couldn't get replacement toner for our printer.
Oh, the world is going crazy. Starting to get back to a bit of normal now, which is good. But yeah, that's a lot of laptops.
It's not a bad order. I'd love to be on the receiving end of that phone call.
Yeah, well, so what? Everyone goes back to work pretty soon, and what happens to the laptops?
Well, they reckon that, especially in government agencies, they reckon that like 80% of the people aren't going to physically go back to work. They've discovered it's so much more efficient to do it the way they're doing it that they reckon so many people are going to continue to work from home.
Well, I think that's look, I think the world's going to change a little bit after the virus for sure.
Well, to give you an example, Aussie Broadband, best broadband company in Australia.
Yes, I agree.
They all, they only had a couple of offices anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But they all work from home now, and I was talking to one of their techs the other day because we've got a commercial contract with them because we've got 2 business premises, so we've got some of their commercial gear as well. And I was chatting to one of their techs the other day while we were having an update on some of our phone systems. I said, so, what's it like working from home? He said, honestly, he said, the systems they have in place are so much more efficient when they're working from home than they were when they were in the office. So their call times are lower now than they were when they were, all working from an office. They said they're probably going to keep it this way.
Mm. Well, the only thing that you have with working from home, I guess, is you maybe have some bad OH&S issues. Maybe do people not sit properly? Do they not have the right heights of chairs and so forth?
But I mean, that becomes a you issue. They're not a company issue.
Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know Kim was working from home for a little. She's gone back to work now. She bought a little Surface home and stuff, and a couple of monitors, and away she went.
Yep. No, it's. There's a lot of companies where I think it's of a great benefit. They don't need suddenly they're not hiring, or they're not renting a 5,000 square meter warehouse to house their staff. Then now all they're doing is they're paying for a computer for all of their staff, and they might be paying for their internet. So suddenly all their overheads have tanked because obviously they're going to have the one thing that will change. They're probably going to have virtual phone systems now, and Aussie Broadband does this, where you can have multiple off-site locations for phones. So you can either direct dial that number to get to that location, or you can actually just do a transfer, or you can do an intercom between phones. So you can have multiple locations acting as a single business through the power of the internet, basically. So, if a company goes, okay, we've now got 5,000 people working from home, that's cool. All we have to do, go to our internet provider, go give us 5,000 phones, or all these people have mobiles, divert these particular, lines to these mobiles. And that's going to be their biggest initial interruption. Once that's dealt with, the rest is pretty smooth sailing, really.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you something smooth sailing happened to me through the week. I bought a hard drive, Seagate 4 terabyte from Umart on Friday. It arrived here on Monday. I put it in on Tuesday and it was dead.
Yep.
Didn't work. I thought that's the first hard drive I've ever had that's been DOA.
That's a Seagate for you.
So, because then I'm thinking, because it was like free postage and whatever, and I'm thinking, look, now I'm going to have to either take it back to Southport or I'm going to have to post it back to Umart or post it somewhere. But I rang up Umart and they go, why don't you ring Seagate first?
Yep.
And here we go. So I rang Seagate and look, they're sending me a new one, just like that. No problem.
Seagate and Western Digital, if their drives are under warranty, deal with them directly. It's so much easier. 95% of the time, they don't even want the old drive back. They'll just send you a new one. Yeah,
well, it's already been dispatched. I should have it pretty soon, and they're gonna send me a post pack or something, and I'm just gonna put the old hard drive in it and send it back.
Yeah,
and easy peasy. I was pretty happy because I remember quite a little few years ago now I had to return a hard drive. It wasn't DOA, but it was maybe, I don't know, a couple of months into the warranty. I had to send it to Malaysia or somewhere. It cost me $30.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I'll say with Seagate and Western Digital. It's always been nice experience dealing with their warranty. I mean, I remember at one point, I haven't bought Seagate in years because they're a flaky drive. They have always been.
See, I prefer them over WD.
No, not anymore. I used to. At one point, Seagates were really good, and Western Digital weren't fantastic. But
that's right.
For the last 10 years, it's been the other way around. Western Digitals really are a superior drive. Like I've got original 1 gig Western Digitals here that are 10, 12, 14 years old and they're still perfect. I've got no Seagates left. All my Seagates are dead.
Yeah, right.
And I'm running Western Digitals in my NAS. I'm running them in this computer. I'm running them in everything.
But are they proper like NAS drives?
In my NAS they are. They're the reds, which are the NAS drives. But in everything else, I just run the blacks, which is their cheapest one. I run them in everything.
Well, this Seagate 4 terabyte, I think it was $156. I thought that's not too bad for a 4 TB.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it directly into the computer. I just needed it as a backup drive, and I had to put it into a USB thingy because the motherboard and the computer I wanted where the stuff was wouldn't take it. But look, I've got a little. I wouldn't say a challenge, but something fun to do over the next few weeks. If anyone's still out there listening and they're still with us, I thought about if you guys want to send in photos or whatever, not of yourselves, or you can be in it if you want, but photos of what is your oldest working gadget? So run me through the drawer and turn them all on and let us know what your oldest working gadget is. That'd be a bit of fun, and send them up on Facebook or send them into Glenn Warlock or Will at AussieTechHeads.com.au, and we'll chuck them up. I'm sure we'll be able to put everybody's up. I don't think we'll get inundated.
Without doing too much thinking, I think mine would be my old XT.
Oh my God, you still got one of those?
2 meg MFM hard drive. Yep.
20 meg hard drive?
No, 2.
Oh.
2 meg.
They were as heavy as the bloody.
Yeah. They weighed. Yeah, they were horrible. They took up half the case.
Didn't those things, when you turn them on, didn't they have a real big spin up?
Yeah, it took like 5 minutes to get up to speed just to start unparking the heads. They were great. I had that. That had the 2 5.5 inch floppy bays. I had it was monochrome, but it was 4-color monochrome. So it was 4-shade monochrome. So it wasn't just black and white. It could actually do shading. It had a funky.
The problem for you, Will, is
funky.
Can
keyboard.
you take a photo of it working?
No, it's at Dad's place. I can't even take a photo of Dad working anymore.
No, but because I meant, I didn't mean, like, I just meant
No,
that, like,
but I'd have to go back and see what I don't know what
you'd
I've
have
got
to book
here.
it all up. And,
I don't have anything here that's old. Everything's at Dad's place.
yeah, right. Because I want to see someone's old working gadget. I'd like to know. We'd like to know. So might be a bit of fun.
I got on a
And
Nokia 5110. Does that count?
Yeah, sure.
It's over,
Sure.
It's up. It's hiding up here somewhere.
Yeah. And it works, turns on and everything.
Well, it did. I've been letting Bub play with it for the last 6 months, but I don't see why it wouldn't work.
Yeah. As long as you can play Snake on it, we'll call it working.
So, yeah.
It's down for working. Yeah, all right. Well, let's see how we go with that. We'll keep going over the next couple of weeks mentioning it, and maybe in July we might be able to start showing some.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Be a bit of fun.
Or if we start getting heaps, we'll show them every week.
But
Yeah.
does it mean the... Now, to be clear, is it the oldest piece of hardware that you've... Is it the hardware that you've had the longest, or is it the oldest piece of hardware that you own?
Own.
Because you could go on eBay and buy something tomorrow.
You could, if you wanted to, yes. Well, maybe you've owned and used.
So, yeah, there's something that is actually an in-use item, not just something that's laying around.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So not like you can't go onto eBay and buy a Valve TV.
So, well, I've still got a Valve record player at Dad's place as well, actually.
Yeah, well, see, if you've got... Well, it's got to
I'm
be
not going
electronic.
to go on, that is not a good enough excuse to go and visit Dad.
Yeah, it should be. Is Valve electronic, though? Or
Yes.
would you call that electronic?
Analog. It's analog,
not
but
electronic?
it's electronic, but it's analog. It's not,
All right,
not digital.
Yeah, include that. I'll take it
Yeah,
all.
still
I'll take it
electronic.
all. Let's just see what people have got out there. Even looking at old TVs and old stereo systems,
Actually,
they're cool.
I've got an old push bike down in the shed that's actually was my dad's, I believe, and it's got a dynamo on it that he got off his dad's bike. So
Is that at your dad's place?
no, that's down the shed, down here. So the bike is like 50 years old, but the dynamo is like 70 years old.
Yeah, oh, jeez. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that you
I
put it on
know. I
the
think the
wheel
other
and
thing I've got from
Yeah,
my grandfather was a set of chisels. I don't know what happened to his record player. Well, I've got one more story. Will, I don't know about you. Have you
No,
had
go for it. Do
yeah,
that, and then we'll call it. I think.
Yeah. Oh, so we'll do mine.
Absolutely.
All right. KFC, to surprise of many, thought that they were going to release a console to rival the PlayStation 5 and the
Really?
Xbox Series X.
Who thought this?
The little KFC heads that saw the ad. The KFCs appears to have jumped on the wave of excitement around the release of the next generation consoles, with a new video spruiking its own entry into the console wars. Now you can find this video if you just type in. There we go. Will's playing it here. But type in the Google KFC game console. You'll see the video. It's a pretty schmicko video. And the video of the KFC console, which includes a chicken chamber, has had almost 3 million views since being posted by KFC's Twitter accounts. So fans were quick to question if the announcement was for real or publicity stunt. I wonder.
You know what it is? It's an add-on for the PS5. It's what you do with all that excess heat.
It just sits on top. It's the heat sink.
Yeah, that's it. Just cook your chicken while you're playing games.
That's right. And the CD drive, your little. It's a horizontal toaster.
Yeah, that's it. And it functions as a cup holder.
Could be a pizza warmer. Who knows? The second hand, the day old pizza. Slide her into the
Grilled cheese.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that? Someone sent me a Facebook thing of someone pouring melted cheese into a schooner of beer.
Ew.
And I'm not sure if they were supposed to be saying the idea. I think was this was good, but I don't know about that.
No, I mean, so whatever. I'm not one to criticize people's taste, but no.
Oh no, that's right. No. Maybe you could spread the cheese with some Vegemite. Might work then. Who knows?
Yeah, cheese and veggies in my beer. I'm sure that's going to take off. That'll be a thing. That's next year's fashion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all right. Well, that's it. That's the end of me tonight. Will, this week.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, it must be time to go. So thanks for listening to Aussie Tech Heads. Broadcast weekly. We can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and now our new one at patreon.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Sign up for a $4 a month or $10 a month, or there's a few other plans there as well. You can see the site for details. Email us, Glenn, Will, or Warlock at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear us, Aussie Tech Heads, on aussietechradio.com, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows are added each Friday. So thank you, Glenn, for joining us, and we hope to see more of you.
You will. Thank you. Will. It's good to come back. I'll get all the stuff from you, and we'll work out a schedule.
Sounds like a plan. All right, mate.
Thanks, Will. Thanks,
No
everyone.
worries. See ya. Bye.
Good to be heard.